This time, we're hearing they are done for good. Dakota Johnson and Chris Martin have split again. Mara Siegler is here with some details. What's going on?
So they have been together for 8 years.
Chris Martin and Dakota Johnson are going their separate ways. Multiple outlets report that the Coldplay artist and the 50 Shades actress, who first sparked romance rumors in 2017 and later got engaged, have called it quits after nearly 8 years together.
Like not an
Dakota Johnson isn't picky when it comes to relationships. Just days after her breakup with Chris Martin, whom she dated for nearly 8 years, was confirmed, the Materialist star shares with Craig Melvin on the June 9th episode of Today.
Dakota Johnson and Chris Martin have reportedly broken up after being together for nearly 8 years. A source allegedly broke the news to People, telling them that it feels final this time. People started to suspect their split after Dakota's interview with the Los Angeles Times because of her response to being asked what made her role in the Materialists feel different for her.
They've had ups and downs. They've broken up in the past, but a source just told People that this is it. This is the final time they're really pulling the plug.
Right, and I've also heard from sources that's true as well. I had heard in the past, because we have had stories about Chris Martin, the lead singer of Coldplay.
E! News has reached out to reps for Chris and Dakota for comment, but has not yet heard back. This news comes months after the couple faced rumors that they had broken up last summer. But a rep told E! News at the time that the online chatter was, quote, not true.
The one thing a prospective partner must have in a relationship.
like not an
That's concise.
Well, okay, all right. That's the only non-negotiable.
She responded by saying the complexities of all of the characters, the paradox, everyone being confused about what the they're supposed to do with their hearts and what's the right move. I found that very honest, and I found it just so relatable.
Dakota Johnson, of course, is the daughter of Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith, who's been in some of your
50
favorite movies, 50 Shades of Grey, Madam Web, and we have heard in the past that they've broken up, but there was this pattern where they would break up and get back together. But sources do say this time it's over.
Quote, they are happily together. The pair first sparked romance rumors when the actress was seen attending one of Chris's concerts in 2017.
All right, that was nail on the head, and we're going to have to actually probably clean that up for the West Coast feed. That's okay.
Dakota's succinct response comes shortly after she entered the dating market again.
She added, for a long time, we've all been so quick to judge relationships or how they should happen, how they should exist in the world. When people should get married, divorce is bad.
Dakota Johnson isn't usually one for dramatic headlines. For nearly 8 years, she kept her relationship with Coldplay frontman Chris Martin out of the spotlight. No red carpets, no public declarations, just two stars choosing privacy over publicity. But now, Dakota has everyone talking with just 2 words: not an a-hole. That's what she casually told Craig Melvin on the Today Show when asked what she looks for in a partner. And while the delivery was calm and collected, the internet heard it loud and clear. Just days after the breakup news broke, Dakota's subtle shade, or truth bomb, depending on who you ask, sparked a wildfire of speculation. Was she sending a message, taking a dig, or simply stating a boundary that's been long overdue? Because when someone like Dakota Johnson, who's known for staying silent during public drama, suddenly decides to speak, even briefly, it usually means there's more beneath the surface. Insiders close to the couple are calling this split final.
I know Chris Martin tonight is playing a gig in Las Vegas. Meantime, Dakota Johnson has been on the red carpet promoting her latest project, and she even sort of had hinted in a recent interview that maybe there had been some trouble.
But fans want to know, what pushed things to the edge after nearly a decade together? Was it just timing? Was it the age gap? Conflicting lifestyles? Or was there something unspoken building behind closed doors? In this video, we'll trace the full story, from the early days of secret dinners and whispered engagement rumors, to the growing space between them, to Chris's unexpected Vegas shoutout, and Dakota's poised but pointed exit. There were no blowouts, no tabloid scandals. But that doesn't mean there wasn't heartbreak. And Dakota's post-breakup confidence? That's the part catching everyone off guard, because when someone walks away this quietly, and then drops a line like that, you know the silence had weight. So what really happened behind one of Hollywood's most private love stories? Let's start from the beginning and uncover the moments that led to Dakota's now viral message to her next love. Dakota Johnson and Chris Martin were never the kind of couple to chase the camera. From the very beginning, their relationship was defined by one thing: silence. No red carpet moments, no social media posts, not even a formal announcement. Just a quiet dinner spotted in Los Angeles back in 2017.
On June 4th, multiple outlets reported that the couple, who first sparked dating rumors in 2018, had gone their separate ways. Rest assured, though, Chris still wants fans to pack the theater for Dakota's new film.
And suddenly, whispers started. But for months, there were no confirmations. And that wasn't by accident. Sources say both Dakota and Chris made a conscious choice to keep their relationship under wraps. For Chris, it made sense. After all, he had already lived through one of the most high-profile divorces in Hollywood with Gwyneth Paltrow. And Dakota? She was just beginning to step out of the shadow of 50 Shades fame and into more serious, independent roles. Neither of them wanted headlines. They wanted peace. And for a while, they had it. They moved at their own pace, far from the chaos of paparazzi culture. No public arguments, no sudden leaks, just two people building a life, quietly. By 2020, they had reportedly purchased a Malibu mansion together. Friends described their setup as very domestic: mornings by the ocean, music in the evenings, and a level of calm most Hollywood couples only pretend to have. But behind that calm, something was shifting. Over time, fans began to notice little signs. Fewer joint sightings, extended solo trips, missing appearances during big career moments. The distance wasn't loud. It was subtle, but it was growing. And when you spend years building a relationship on privacy, sometimes that silence turns into something heavier, because no one's really watching closely until things start to fall apart. For years, fans held onto one simple clue that kept the rumors alive: the ring. In 2019, Dakota Johnson was first spotted wearing an elegant emerald ring on that finger.
During his recent Coldplay show in California, he tells the crowd, quote, "Be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, and don't forget to see materialists."
And instantly, whispers of an engagement to Chris Martin exploded online. No official statement was ever made, but the speculation never stopped. Paparazzi caught glimpses of it more than once, and close friends hinted that the couple was very serious. Everyone assumed the wedding was just a matter of time. But time passed, and nothing happened. No wedding date, no announcements, no red carpet debut as an engaged couple. Just more silence. At first, fans chalked it up to the couple's famously private nature. Maybe they just didn't want the pressure. Maybe they were happy without the label. But behind the scenes, sources say something else was going on. Chris reportedly wasn't in a rush. He had already done the marriage thing, and after going through a highly public divorce with Gwyneth Paltrow, he wasn't eager to go down that road again. Dakota, meanwhile, was said to be waiting. Patiently at first, but over time, insiders say that patience started to wear thin. The ring stayed on for a while, until it didn't. In early June, just days before her Today Show appearance, Dakota was photographed in New York, no ring in sight. For fans who had followed every quiet move over the past 8 years, this was the moment the writing truly hit the wall. Not only was the wedding never going to happen, it seems it was never seriously on the table. But the ring wasn't the only thing Dakota may have wanted in this relationship. They say love can survive almost anything. But sometimes, it's the quietest differences that break the strongest bonds.
I mean, we'll see if it actually does stick. They seem like a very cute couple. Chris Martin has the 2 kids with his ex Gwyneth Paltrow, Apple, and the other one, Moses.
Yeah, don't forget Moses.
And Dakota Johnson is, I'm sure, very close with them, so that adds another layer.
For Dakota Johnson and Chris Martin, one of those differences may have been about the future. Not the career kind, but the family kind. Dakota, now 35, has spoken in past interviews about imagining a home filled with warmth, laughter, and someday, children. Not urgently, not as a checklist, but as something she hoped to build when the time felt right. Chris, on the other hand, is already a father of 2. He shares Apple and Moses with ex-wife Gwyneth Paltrow, and by all accounts, he's a deeply involved, loving dad. But sources close to the couple say Chris had quietly decided he was done with that chapter. His kids were growing up. He was in a new rhythm, one that didn't involve starting over. And that's where the tension started to grow. Insiders say the topic came up more than once, not as a fight, but as a fundamental disconnect. Dakota would bring it up gently. Chris would respond with hesitation. And as the years passed, that space between their dreams got harder to ignore. It wasn't about not loving each other. It was about wanting different things at different stages in life. And when one partner wants to build a future that the other doesn't see for themselves, it creates a quiet kind of sadness. The kind that doesn't explode, but lingers in the air. According to sources, Dakota never pushed, but she also never stopped hoping. And eventually...
Yeah, that's true. So there had also been rumors in the past that these two were engaged. Sometimes she would be seen with a very large emerald ring that people thought was an engagement ring, but much like their relationship, the ring was on and off. Now it seems to be off. So this could be the end of this story or not.
Hope turned into reality. A reality where their timelines just didn't align anymore. Even in the most grounded relationships, distance has a way of making small cracks grow bigger. And for Dakota and Chris, their careers weren't just demanding. They were happening on opposite sides of the planet. Coldplay's world tour has been massive. Multiple continents, back-to-back stadium shows, months on the road. It's the kind of schedule that leaves little room for anything else. Chris was traveling non-stop. London one week, Sao Paulo the next. And when he wasn't performing, he was deep in the studio trying to squeeze in writing sessions between flights. Meanwhile, Dakota was booked and busy in her own right. With lead roles in films like Cha-Cha Real Smooth, Am I Okay, and her most recent headline project, Materialists, she wasn't just acting. She was carrying entire projects. That meant intense production schedules, press tours, and months away filming across Europe and the US. At first, they made it work. FaceTime calls, weekend meetups, late-night texts. But over time, those moments became harder to align. Plans were missed. Days turned into weeks apart. And even when they were in the same city, their lives operated on completely different clocks. Chris was focused on early mornings with his kids and quiet nights at home. Dakota was juggling premieres, interviews, and late shoots that wrapped long after midnight. Sources close to them described it as a slow fade, not a falling out, just a growing realization that they were no longer moving in the same direction. They loved each other, no question, but love doesn't always sync with schedules.
With them later confirming the relationship the following year by holding hands at Stella McCartney's Hollywood fashion show. Dakota's mom, Melanie Griffith, later dished about her daughter's relationship with the musician.
And sometimes, distance doesn't need a dramatic exit. It just needs time to do its work. For a couple known for handling everything behind closed doors, this next part caught even their inner circle off guard. According to multiple reports, Chris Martin didn't just end the relationship quietly, he moved out without saying a word. While Dakota was away filming out of town, sources claim Chris packed up and left their Malibu home. No dramatic conversations, no big final moment. Just gone. Imagine returning to the place you've called home for years, only to find it half empty. Insiders close to the situation say Dakota was blindsided. She knew there were tensions, she knew they were drifting. But this, it felt like the final page was turned without her knowing they were even near the end of the chapter. And then, the whispers started. In the weeks leading up to the move-out, rumors began circulating about Chris being spotted in Rome with a model. The story made its way through fan pages, blind items, and insider leaks. No names were confirmed, no photos surfaced, but in a relationship that had been built entirely on privacy, even a hint of someone new was enough to set speculation on fire. Of course, nothing has been confirmed. Chris hasn't commented, Dakota hasn't addressed it, but the silence hasn't stopped the questions. Was the move-out just a matter of timing, or was it a way to avoid confrontation? And was there really someone else? Or just a convenient rumor at the wrong time? Whatever the truth is, one thing's certain. After nearly 8 years together,
telling People magazine in 2018, "I adore him, but she is very private about her life and I respect that." But despite being extremely private, Dakota has previously shared insight into what the couple loves about being with each other.
the ending wasn't just quiet, it was cold. And yet, just when everyone assumed the chapter was closed, Chris Martin stepped onto a stage in Las Vegas and said something no one saw coming. Just days after headlines confirmed the split, Chris Martin walked onto a Las Vegas stage and dropped what some fans are calling a musical farewell. In the middle of Coldplay's set, Chris paused to speak to the crowd, something he rarely does. He didn't name names, he didn't make a statement, but the words he chose, and the song that followed sent a wave through the fandom. He gave a quiet nod to someone who will always be special, just before performing a track that many believe was meant for Dakota Johnson. And whether it was intentional or not, it felt like a moment of vulnerability, live, raw, and completely unfiltered. The reaction online was instant. Fans were dissecting every lyric, every pause, every line. Was it a tribute, a final apology, a goodbye wrapped in a melody? Or was it just Chris being Chris, emotional, introspective, and still healing from something deeper than we realized? After all, Chris Martin has always used music to process what he can't say out loud. And for someone who's kept his love life so private for so long, this sudden, subtle spotlight on his emotions didn't go unnoticed. What made it even more powerful was the timing. Just hours earlier, Dakota had stepped out for press events, smiling and composed. No public sadness, no statements, and now here was Chris under the lights, letting the silence finally speak. Whether it was closure, regret, or something in between, it said more than a headline ever could. But while Chris was singing through his emotions, Dakota was stepping into something very different. While Chris Martin was pouring emotions into the mic on stage,
telling Elle UK in 2021, quote, "We go out sometimes, but we both work so much that it's nice to be at home and be cozy and private."
Dakota Johnson was sending a message of her own, without saying a single word. Just days after the breakup news broke, Dakota made her first major public appearance at the Tribeca Film Festival. And she didn't just show up, she showed out. Wearing a sheer, head-turning Nenzi Dojaka dress and a smile that seemed calm, collected, and completely in control, Dakota reminded the world exactly who she is. This wasn't just about fashion, it was a statement. After 8 years of being the quiet partner in a famously private relationship, Dakota was now owning the spotlight. On her terms. No breakdowns, no cryptic captions, just elegance, confidence, and a look that said, "I'm still here, I'm still standing, and I'm moving forward." But behind the glowing photos and fashion headlines, insiders say the breakup hit her hard, not just because of Chris, but because of the family she had become so close to. Dakota reportedly had a deep bond with Chris's 2 children, Apple and Moses. She'd been in their lives for years, helping raise them quietly, without ever making it part of her brand. Sources say it was this part of the split that hurt the most, stepping away not just from a partner, but from the little family they had built together. Still, Dakota didn't let the pain define her next move. She leaned into her career, showed up for her film, and gave a composed, candid interview on national television just days later. And when she dropped those now viral words, "Not an a-hole," she did it with a laugh, not a grudge. It wasn't bitterness, it was clarity. But even in this new chapter, there was one part of Dakota's life that never quite fit the Hollywood mold, and that was her surprising connection with the Martin Paltrow family. In most Hollywood breakups, there's a clear line between exes and current partners. But with Dakota Johnson and Chris Martin, things were always a little unconventional. At the center of that unusual dynamic, Gwyneth Paltrow, Chris's ex-wife and the mother of his 2 children, Gwyneth wasn't just cordial with Dakota, she was complimentary. In interviews, she publicly called Dakota adorable, praised their relationship, and even said she was lucky to have her in the extended family. It was a level of support that no one expected, and it gave fans the impression of a rare, mature blended family.
All these things that actually, if you think about it, why is divorce bad? Why do people have to get married or at a certain age or only once? Why? It doesn't matter. They reportedly split for a short amount of time in June of 2019, but sparked engagement rumors the following December.
But if things were so smooth, what changed? Some believe the growing tension came from within the family unit itself, specifically Dakota's relationship with Chris's daughter, Apple Martin. While Dakota was said to be incredibly close to both kids, online rumors have followed Apple for years, painting her as the queen bee of a powerful friend group with a not-so-nice reputation. One viral nickname even labeled her Rotten Apple. Harsh? Maybe. But the gossip didn't stop. And though there's no public drama between Dakota and Apple, sources say that Dakota's role as a step-parent figure was complicated at best, especially in the final year of the relationship, when tensions were rising behind the scenes. Still, Dakota never spoke out. She never corrected the rumors or clarified her bond with Chris's family. She stayed quiet, like she always had. But when the relationship ended, so did her connection to the people she had quietly grown to love. And maybe that's what makes this breakup so different. It wasn't just a romance ending, it was a life untangling, carefully, painfully, and completely out of the public eye. But even in heartbreak, Dakota delivered one last message. In the end, Dakota Johnson didn't slam doors. She didn't post cryptic messages or air dirty laundry. She did what she always does, kept it classy, kept it quiet, until she didn't. With just 2 words, "not an a-hole," Dakota peeled back the curtain, just enough to let the world know that behind the calm exterior, there was a deeper story. A story of patience, of hope, and of a woman who spent 8 years loving someone in silence, only to walk away when the silence stopped serving her. Chris Martin, for his part, responded the only way he knows how, through music. His shout-out from the Vegas stage wasn't dramatic, but it was telling. It was a moment filled with nostalgia, affection, and maybe even a little regret. But this wasn't about villains or victims. There was no explosive scandal, just 2 people growing apart, wanting different futures, living different lives. What's left is a story that feels painfully real, because sometimes the most beautiful relationships end not with betrayal, but with time. Dakota's non-negotiable wasn't just about the next partner, it was a quiet promise to herself. Never again shrink to fit someone else's plan. So what's next for her? A new chapter, a clearer voice, and maybe, finally, the kind of love that doesn't need silence to survive. Because when Dakota speaks, even softly, the world listens.